2020 to order. Please stand for the invocation and pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this opportunity to join before you today. There are a number of needs that are unmet within the community. We pray that you guide the town's leadership in helping to meet these needs. Pray that you would enable them to work together as a team, even though they may share differences. We pray that you continue to bless them with their leadership within the town. In your name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. Thanks for coming and thank you for complying with the CDC guidelines for our safety. Roll call, please. Here. Here.
Present.
Present.
Here.
Present.
First, we have our consent agenda for October. Is there any item that needs to be pulled? Seeing that there's none, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for October. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Section E, we have a presentation to our Kenneth City Police Department by resident Jeffrey Finesse. So, Jeffrey?
Thank you. First off, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, and I moved to St. Petersburg, Florida in 2002. I became a resident here in Kenneth City, and 2006, I moved away from here to take care of a 90-year-old lady. She passed away at 96. I worked for the city of St. Pete water department and just transferred into the stormwater department. I got a year and a half when I could retire. And when all this stuff started with defund the police and all the riots and stuff were going on, I thought to myself, you know what? I moved to this town because I love the police department here. They sit there and say, oh, you don't go speeding through Kenneth City. Well, that was years ago, but now I went around and talked to a bunch of people and they said that the speeding gets a little out of hand and they don't seem to want to go back to having the cities that was the reputation of you don't go 1 mile an hour over or your grandmother will get a ticket. But they do want to see something done about it, so they asked me to bring that up. Going up and down 46, people are flying down there, not stopping at stop signs and stuff like that. But the reason why I'm here today is I was talking to my neighbor Tim, he's in the back row over there, and I said, we have to do something for the police department to let them know that we care about them. This turnover rate every 5 years to get new police officers and stuff costs the town too much money. We want to keep them here. I'm here to retire. I would love to see our officers stay here to retire. So I went out and went knocking on door to door to see what the people in the town thought. They all want to see our police officers stay. They don't want to see them leaving every 5 years. If they want to get training, we need to get them trained. If they need things, we want to make sure they get it. And we got to find a way to try to keep them here because it costs money to bring new recruits in. So I went out and I bought a plaque and is Kevin Riley here? I want to present this to you for the people. You want to stand up if you were here to support the police department today? Very nice. Very, 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 very nice. All these people, they just want you to know that they don't want to see you go. I know that you're retiring or whatever your plans are, but we want to keep our officers here. And we want to get them training, whatever they want. We want to make sure it's taken care of. We got to find a solution because too much money to bring a new recruit in. I worked with the Tampa police, through a friend of mine who was the oldest active police officer in the United States. He was 93 years old when he died. He was still active. He trained the Tampa, and the Miami SWAT team. His name was Leo Tellerthesis. He died at 93. He was still active in the police department. And that's what I want to see. I want to see our police officers retire here. I want to retire here because I love this city. I work for the city of St. Pete. I don't want to live in St. Pete. I want to live in Kansas City. Because I go at 2 o'clock in the morning, walk my dog, and there they are coming up and down the street. They watch our houses. I've talked to people where their garage doors were open, they knock on their door to tell them to close the garage door so they don't get anything stolen. We need our police department here. We can't afford to have the sheriff's department come in and work nights like they used to maybe years ago. From what I hear, they come in and they drive through and oh, we got people in the area. No, we don't want people in the area. We want our officers here. Thank you very much.
Chief, can you please read what is, don't read all the names, but explain what is on the plaque, because I know it is to all the, staff. It's not just officers, you've got Erica, and what is at the bottom, what it says.
Yeah, as I look through this, and thank you very, very much, this is absolutely humbling. And on behalf of the men and women in uniform, I, graciously accept this plaque from all the citizens. We do appreciate this very, very much. This is in appreciation to the Kansas City Police Department for your commitment and dedication to the citizens. And it has everybody's name, looks like currently on the roster, which is, again, civilians and sworn. And then all the way down to, and our reserve officers and volunteers. So again, many of you in the room that volunteer either all the time or just once in a while, it speaks volumes. And then we have your back as you have ours, and it's November 18th, 2020. So really well done.
I was talking to Wanda about this way before this time, but with COVID and everything, and then I ended up getting cancer and I'm going through treatment and stuff. But I went around and knocked on doors and people gave donations, and we have a check for the police department here for $265. Wow.
We will definitely put this to good use. We'll put it in our donation account, and we'll make sure that these funds get right back out in the street and help feed homeless folks and families and help shop with a cop and bring everybody else's lives a little better on your behalf. So thank you very much for doing this, and we really appreciate the strong support. It's very surprising. I didn't know. I kind of heard a little bit about this, but this is overwhelming actually to not see so many folks, but to thank you for coming out and taking time out of your schedule on a busy night to come out here tonight and to do this. Again, our volunteers, our reserve officers, our full-time, our part-time, our staff in the office, and all the town council and this town staff that bring all this together. It's absolutely a team effort. All of us do this. No one is more important than the other. And then you all are part of the team as well, where you allow us to do this. And we appreciate that very, very much. And we're glad to be able to do it for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much again, all of you. Thank you.
We need to keep these officers here and run and retire here.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and thank you all for coming and doing the reward process. Love it. Thank you. Which brings us a good segue into next, what is on the agenda, is town employee recognition for our Chief Kevin Riley for his 5 years of service here in Kansas City. And Chief, I just want to say to you, and I'm sure on behalf of all the council, you've just done a phenomenal job in the 5 years you've been here. The organization that you have brought to our police department, the professionalism, the boost in morale, the positive face that you have brought back to our community, the accreditation, achieving that for us. And on behalf of the council and myself, we not only want to congratulate you, we want to thank you for your service.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you again very much for giving me the opportunity to do it.
And Manager Campbell.
And again, it's a team event. I've done nothing myself. These folks allow me to come in every day, give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. You all allow me to organize and kind of construct, and that's all I'm doing is just kind of coordinating, and we're getting some stuff done. And you'll continue. You're in great hands, great staff here, great officers, great community. I tell everybody everywhere I go, this is an absolute beautiful place to be.
But you're the leader.
I
It's
appreciate it.
teamwork, but you were the leader of it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And Chief, we really couldn't have done it without you. Ever since coming here from Pinellas Park, you have turned this department around. You have made us a reputable agency from where we once were. You have completely just transformed our department into an agency where now our officers are desired by other agencies. Not that we want turnover, but we have officers that are highly trained in what they do in their field. And you have propelled us forward. You've enabled us to become accredited, which is a huge step in the right direction. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is open forum. Is there anyone who would like to speak about anything that is not on the agenda?
Because we have a lot of people who aren't traditionally here at a meeting, there are a couple of things on the agenda, ordinances and resolutions. If you want to talk about anything that's not those, now is the time. So if you were here to talk about the dog park, flooding, whatever your issue du jour is, now would be the time. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and then please offer your comments. Everybody is to address their comments to the council, and you have 3 minutes.
I wanted to talk about the carnival that's going on right now. Tell me how it came to be that we're in a pandemic and we have a carnival. I stopped today and talked to them and asked them, would they be cleaning the rides between people? And the answer is no. Will they be required to wear a mask? No. How did they get a permit from us? When did they get the permit, actually, is my question. And does everybody on this council think that that's a great idea for us to have a 5-day pandemic carnival in Kansas City?
You mind if I address?
Sure.
The carnival came to us the end of July this year, and they've been in Kansas City for 2 different times before. They originally inquired for the 5-day event, which we reviewed it with a team review effort between the police department, the fire department, the building department, town administrative staff, and public works. We looked at all different aspects. They provided a 4-page COVID document that specified that they were doing everything they could to comply with the pandemic. They then came to us, and we briefed the council on this at our October meeting, explained that they were coming to town. There was no comment to the negative by the council at that particular meeting. We then received a request from them on Friday of last week to extend the carnival for an additional 7 days to go through Thanksgiving. Rather than tell them yes, we went back to the drawing board, we went back to our review staff. We did have some comments from Commissioner Zemitis on council. I have heard your comments as well. I did call the county administrator and also called Commissioner Justice, who represents this particular area, spoke with him. I asked both of them what their thoughts were on the matter. Commissioner Justice indicated that if he was driving by, if there was not too much of a crowd, he would stop by and patronize the event. But he said if there was a big crowd, he would probably pass on and go elsewhere. The county administrator had said that the initial 5-day event, since we've already basically been working with them since July, would be reasonable, but he personally had said, you know, if this was a countywide event, he probably would not extend it for the additional 7-day period. So we took that to heart and felt like, you know, we can do the initial 5-day event, but for for the most part. The council was divided. Several of them wanted it to go to 7 days because it is an outdoor event. In looking at their COVID guidelines, Ian and myself were actually out there yesterday on site. They seem to be meeting everything in accordance with what's in the guidelines. They are not new to this line of work. They have been all over the state. They were up at the Groves in Pasco County for over a month. They've been down in Manatee County, West Shore Plaza. They're gonna be up in Pasco County after they leave us. We took everything into account. My biggest concern was I didn't want to openly have the town sponsor event in Kansas City that was out of character with other events that either had been postponed or canceled elsewhere within the county. I can tell you that St. Petersburg did their Grand Prix several weeks ago. The mayor actually worked that event. They limited patronage to 20,000, I believe. The sand sculpture event is going on in Treasure Island this weekend. There are certain events that are continuing to move forward. So we felt that the initial 5-day would be a safe estimate moving forward, but we did not think the additional 7-day extension was something that was in the best interest of the town.
May I come by tomorrow, or what time could I come by tomorrow and get that 4-page document you were talking about?
We actually have electronic, a distributed council. The clerk can actually make that available. We can send that to you in an email tomorrow if that would help.
And our police officers are working there, right?
Yes, we actually have 4 police officers that are providing off-duty detail, both tonight and through the weekend.
And if they get sick, then what?
We have protocol in place, but whether they get sick at the carnival or whether they get sick at Walmart or McDonald's, it's going to be hard to predict where they get sick, but we do have protocol in place.
Because my concern is you asked us to get extra cars for the police officers so they wouldn't have to share cars during the pandemic, so that we could keep them a little safer, and we agreed to give you extra cars to keep them safer, and now you're putting them in at that carnival. It's a super spread, and you talk about Grand Prix, Matt, we're not getting in and out of those cars. These kids are getting in and out of these rides. You talk about the sand sculpture, we're not touching those sand sculptures. You gotta take a look up there when the people are up there, not when they weren't open yesterday.
Ma'am, the police officers had a choice of whether they worked at it or not. We did not assign them to that job, is that correct?
That's correct. So I can call tomorrow and get that document, and do we close it down if they're not dealing with what that document says?
No, we let them operate, as any other event would operate in the middle of the pandemic. We just chose to take a more conservative approach and not go the extension which we put them through Sunday.
But see, I don't think we should have given them the first 5 days, is what I'm saying. You're saying, well, we didn't give them 12, we only gave them 5.
Well, and I understand your concerns. We took this into account and we talked about it at the council back in October and it wasn't an issue. And it's not as though, and I understand your concerns. This is not a new event. They've been within the town before on 2 separate occasions and proven themselves. And I understand your
Pandemic's
frustration.
new, Matt.
Pardon me?
The pandemic is a new event.
Well, then we'll just have to agree to disagree, but I understand your concerns and we'll get you that document
All
tomorrow.
right.
Would you mind stating your name and address for the record?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Maureen Bober, 6082 50th Avenue North, Tennessee.
Can I make a comment about that? So I know you said that you brought the carnival's attention to us last month, but you did also mention that the carnival brought their interest to you at the end of July, and I'm assuming the permit was approved July, August time,
No, the permit was still in review
through when?
up until probably 2 weeks ago. We wanted to make sure that they had all the issues outlined in the off-duty agreement taking place, and we wanted to make sure everything was in place. It does not theoretically get formally approved until the fire department signs off on all the apparatus and their inspections of the equipment, et cetera, which that was occurring, I believe, this morning.
Okay, I understand. Just for the record, I wanted to say when I sent my concerns, and I regret that I did not express my concerns at the October meeting. Also, COVID numbers at the time weren't spiking like they are now. So again, my concerns have changed or have escalated since that last meeting. But to the residents, it was
I recommended it was in the best interest to not extend those extra 7 days. So I wanted to let you know I am against the carnival. I do agree that it is a super spreader event, and I recommend to our residents to not attend, especially with the holidays in order. We would hate to get any of our family members sick. Thank you.
Okay, I saw two, people. I'm gonna start with you in the white jacket, and then I'll go to Cindy.
My name is Janet Robertson. I live at 5510 45th Avenue, New York. My parents moved here in 1977. I purchased a home in 2007. I put in home improvements and I increased the value of my home and of course the neighborhood. Our neighbors don't mind. I have an RV in my front yard. They don't mind it in my yard. They constantly compliment me with it. Officer came knocking on my door on Saturday asking to measure my camper. I said that would be fine. While he measured the camper, he told me how beautiful my yard was. My camper was in code, the proper distance from my house, the proper distance from the curb. He said the mulch and the pebbles I had under it was really nicely landscaped. He was quite impressed. And he said the camper was 18 inches because of the fifth wheel hitch, making it too long because it's over 30 feet now. He asked if it was grandfathered in because I have had it over 3 years in my front yard. And he said, I clearly followed all the proper guidelines of the code. I told the officer no. He told me to come in here tonight. In fact, he insisted I come in here tonight to ask me why it can't be grandfathered in, because that was the first question he asked. This new code of 30 feet will cause enormous added cost to me. It'll cost me $1,800 a year just to have it in an open field that I can store it out. I'm still waiting for a waiting list because I called to get anyway, it's going to take a while to find a place to park it. Also, my insurance doubled. And I said, why would my insurance double? They said, because you don't have vandalism too much inside, but people like to come by and mark the outside of it with paint and graffiti. He said, that's getting to be very popular with the young adults today. And now all I'm doing is, what do I need to get your help to fix this for me? Because this is extremely hard. I'm getting ready to retire in the next 4 months because my boss is going to retire. I have no choice. And so the cost is will be very, very difficult for me.
I have a question. I thought for the council and Matt, I thought when we established the rule, yes, we said 30 feet, but I thought that wasn't including like the hitch. I thought it was just body size of the recreational vehicle.
No. It was the whole thing, but I was here for the meeting too. And they said it's the whole from the back to the front. But,
I'll address your question. It's my understanding that when the council approved this, it was the box length, and I believe the resident had indicated, you have a fifth wheel.
I have a fifth wheel and the hitch length 18 inches past to fit in the bed of my truck.
And on the fifth wheel, there's a habitable portion of the RV that extends, and Commissioner Howell, it extends over the actual bed of the pickup truck and the hitch, so it's an inclusive portion of the recreational vehicle itself. But you are correct, the hitch component, which is non-box, so the portion where the propane tanks would be located or the trailer hitch portion was excluded.
I was just trying to see.
Thank you. Cindy?
My name is Cindy Hyde, 5514 43rd Avenue North. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Chief Riley, because you well deserving it. I just want to mention the house is next door to me again. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I made phone call and emails, and I had 3 people come the next day, take care of the situation. And I thank the manager, town manager also. But I had Chief Riley, I had Officer Bentron, and I had Ken from Charles Park. They were all out there because the garage door went flying off the house onto the ground. So there was complete access to the whole house for whoever wanted to go in there. So they were kind enough to come over and, get a little chit chat out on the road, which is nice, for the community, I like to see that. My issue on the house is, the garage door is back up. I don't know if you came in that or who did it, but it's back up, it's not completely on his, the way it should be, but I'm just hoping that, you know, I know that you guys are doing the best that you can with the situation. I'm just hoping that I don't have to look at this house for the next 7 years, and but I know you all trying, you know, the best that you can, you know, with reports and what have you. But I'd appreciate if something does get done with this tenant, this landlord, because it's an eyesore, you know, and I understand completely that you guys are doing the best that you all can, and I appreciate that so much. But I'm gonna drop that issue because I'm tired of hearing myself talk about that issue. But speeding down the 43rd Avenue is a big, big problem, and it's usually the same people. It's a big problem. And I did notice, yesterday morning when I was walking my dog, we have 2 signs that's up, it's actually covering on a property, it's like 2 houses from the laundromat. There's a sign that says no parking, but it's got a slash on it. It says parking, no, the slash. And then I forgot what the other sign was, but what I'm asking for is if there's any way possible, because they're all fading, the signs are all faded. And what I'm asking for is if you can have a sign that's up towards, more towards the beginning of the road as you come in, to say, no parking on this side of the road, because what I'm finding is, like the other day or a couple days ago, fire truck was down there, down our street. And you have cars parking on one side and on the other side. And for a fire truck to come through that section, 1 minute makes a big difference, okay? When they're trying to squeeze through those cars. 1 minute makes a difference in somebody's life. And all I'm asking is if you can have a sign that says no parking on this side of the road, you know, I don't think you have to see.
Guess what?
Okay, we got the gist of it. So anyone else?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Paul Ashley, 64-12-44. Before I get to my question, I'm going to have a little history. On October 28th, I texted the town manager on 2 things. One was I wanted to know when the townwide garage sale was, and the second one was again bringing up an issue with bushes on the northeast corner of 66th Street and 43rd Avenue needed to be cut. Town manager got back to me the same day, gave me the dates for the garage sale, and as far as the bushes, he said, quote, "We will investigate the bushes. The business owner is responsible. I will check on how code enforcement is proceeding. If they don't cut, we will cut and charge them. I will send you, meaning myself, a diagram of what needs to be cut, maintained. This may help with clarifying what's required versus perception." Unquote. I received nothing. On November 10th, I went back to the town manager and said, "What's the status of the bushes being cut?" The same day, I got a response back. "I'm sending you, Mr. Campbell, sending myself, an email that includes a triangle of site visibility graphic I asked the town engineer to prepare to orient you and the property owners on areas that they are to maintain from the point forward of this intersection. We will visit the site Thursday," that was last Thursday, but due to the storm, I understand that probably didn't happen, "to trim the areas, but code enforcement will be communicating this need to adjacent businesses. The email will also outline how neighborhood residents are to approach the intersection." Thank you. My concern is, as it has been in the past, the bushes block traffic coming from the north. I drive a high vehicle. I cannot see traffic coming from the north. When I stop at the white line that's on the street, I cannot see pedestrians coming. I have to inch out into 66th Street, A, to see vehicles coming from the north if I want to make a left turn, and B, to see pedestrians walking, even if I want to make a right turn. So something needs to be done, and they need to be maintained, whether it's by the town, the business, I don't care who. But before there's a real issue, something needs to be done. Thank you.
My name is Chris Vanderkooy. I'm from 5196 60th Way North. Just a couple things I'd like to discuss. First of all, the new parking enforcement that's going into effect, I believe, in January, I think it's 53, is that what it is, 53? 54. I'd kind of like to know how the decision was made to put the hardship on so many people for parking on the grass. Like, how does that affect anybody else in the township? There are a lot of elderly people, as you probably know, that live in our community. And when I speak to them while I'm walking my dog, they all have concerns if they have a small driveway, how they are going to abide by this new law or ordinance, whatever you want to call it. So I have concerns in reference to that from my fellow citizens. The RV thing, I totally get it. But maybe we could, like with this lady over here, maybe we could cut her some slack on 18 inches when it's just the fifth wheel hookup. Maybe we should look at just maybe the actual box of the RV. Because there are a lot of people that it doesn't bother their neighbors, and if it doesn't bother their neighbors, why is it bothering the council? It seems to me, and forgive me if I'm incorrect, that it's a money grab, and I don't like it. I don't like it. And, you know, perhaps we could be a little bit more transparent with that. That's all I'm saying. And if you were if we have a little bit more transparency so that the people of this community would understand why these things are being done, then perhaps there would be so much dissension amongst our fellow citizens. One last thing I'd like to talk about is old power lines and junk left by the utility companies in our community that have been there since 1958. I personally have an old line that has been in my yard that goes over my yard so long, it goes through the oak tree. And it's not used for anything. I've had experts come out and look, and I don't understand why we are not requiring the people that have left them there to clean them up, just to beautify our city. It should not be our responsibility or at our cost whatsoever to have these things cleaned up. I've mentioned it before, and I was told that they were going to come look at it. There is a pole that's about to fall over on 52nd Avenue, and nobody does anything. And I just want to know why. I mean, it just seems to me like it could be a couple phone calls, and that would be done, and we could have some beautification of our town. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I go up one more time?
There's a woman behind
Can
you.
you go after me, Cindy? Because
Yes,
I
go
got
ahead.
something to add.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Otto. I'm at 6496 43rd Avenue North. And I came here to say something, but I want to concur with the gentleman on the bushes on 43rd Avenue, but also on the left side going out to 66th Street, because it's dangerous enough in rush hour traffic. And I also come from the north side of 66 on 243rd. It's a dangerous intersection as it is, and the bushes would be great if we can fix them. I concur with Cindy that the house next to her is been an eyesore since that time we had the hurricane a couple of years ago. And the reason I actually came here is that I saw some woman sitting in that driveway when the garage door was down, and I don't know who she is. I heard from other neighbors that she lives down the street. I don't even know who these people are, but I think someone else in that house was also kind of snooping around the neighbor across the street from me, and they just got a ring camera to check on people like this. So I don't know what's going on with the people that come from apparently the same house down the street.
Thank you. Barbara?
Barbara Roberts, 6412 44th Avenue North. I just wanted to make a comment on the ordinances that we have. We did those ordinances so that the homes in Kenneth City would still have a value. Without that, everyone could just park wherever they wanted, and none of us would have homes that had a value to them. I'm not saying the lady with the mobile home has that, but on my street, there's a mobile home that's too large also. It's stained green on both sides, it doesn't run, and the gentleman rents it out. Maybe that's something other residents wanna look at. I, for one, don't, and I'm glad that we have the ordinance that stops all of that from happening.
Just wait for a minute. Is there anyone else for open forum? And then Cindy, I'm gonna ask, is it on a different topic?
Yes, it's a.
Okay, yes, you may.
Okay, my concern is, we talked about this, some time ago, the cutoff left turn that goes into Jack Random Nursing Home. That's a danger, that's really much a danger, because, I was sitting at the stop sign the other day, and a car was coming up, making a left-hand turn to go into Jack Random, and that car, plus the car that was coming down 66th Street, turning into Owl Street, 43rd Avenue, they almost collided. And it's an almost every other day. It's a very dangerous, median right there, the left turn median. For some reason, they don't need to have that median there. I mean, it takes 2 minutes for them to go up and make a U-turn at the other median that's across the street from Kmart. But the one that's coming out of our address at 43rd Avenue, that median really needs to go. And that's all I have to say, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will close open forum. Moving on to new business. First is ordinance 2020-655, updating the town's Uniform Development Code, amending chapter 34, fire protection and prevention. This is the first reading. I need a motion to approve.
Mayor, may I read my title first?
Oh, I'm sorry, that one. Yes, I thought that was resolution. Yes, go.
This is ordinance number 2020-655, an ordinance of the town of Kenneth City, Florida, amending chapter 34, fire protection and prevention, article 3, fire prevention code, section 34-129, alarm systems, false alarms, amending the definition section, amending the fee for false alarms, providing for appeals, providing for severability, providing for legislative findings, providing for the correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. This has been a first reading of ordinance number 2020-655 by title only, Mayor.
Thank you. Need a motion to approve ordinance 2020-655.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2020-655.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Is there anything Manager Campbell would like to?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is an ordinance, this is a first reading of an ordinance that will actually get 2 readings. The second will be the second and final reading. Currently, the existing ordinance that we have on the books is only limited to fire, it's not for security purposes. Also, the existing ordinance is very limiting, in that it doesn't provide a lot of education or leniency, to help educate, businesses with actual alarms. And what, Chief Riley and the town attorney have been working on with this particular ordinance, it actually breaks it down and provides a more descriptive fee schedule that attempts to educate the actual business owners. What we're dealing with here is we have certain business owners within the town that have had multiple false alarms over the years. The existing ordinance basically specifies that after a 90-day period, there shall be a $100 fine, and then each subsequent 90-day period thereafter, another $100 fine. The new fee schedule that's included in section 2 of the subject ordinance breaks it down into basically the first false alarm is obviously free, but the second and third false alarms are $40. Then it slides to the fourth and fifth false alarm being $80, and then the sixth and seventh go to $100, and then the eighth is $300. Now, what you might be thinking is, my goodness, do people actually go that much into the weeds with these false alarms? Based upon what the chief has informed me, yes, they do. And what happens is, this particular ordinance will just strengthen our ability to educate the business owners that it's very important to make sure their alarms are functioning in the best way possible. Of course, this doesn't deal with alarms where there's truly a need, where someone alarms where something is going on with the alarm, or maybe an animal trips it or something like that. This also creates an opportunity just for the education, and then it also creates an opportunity for the town to recoup some of those expenses of, say, not only our fire enforcement personnel, but also the police officers in going out to these particular locations and waiting until the alarm company to reset the system, or the first or second person who's on the actual business communication line is communicated. So this just helps us strengthen our existing ordinance, but it also, over time, helps us with our enforcement and potentially recouping some of the police department expenses and fire expenses.
Is this the first, since you've been here as our town manager, that we have addressed this?
Based upon my knowledge, yes.
Okay, because I remember this discussion years, much than before that, I remember this. So the only person in the room, I think, would be Lieutenant Dino, Sergeant Dino. Do you remember us discussing this, and there was a problem, and then we had this, we put this in place? I guess my question is, it was bad years ago, did things get better and now they're getting bad again?
Well,
I don't care, I'm sorry, I put him on the spot, but he's the only one I know that was here.
yeah, no, without putting Mr. Vino on the spot, I would say, Ray Moore, our city attorney, or town attorney, in speaking with the chief of police and the resources his department has allocated, short answer, yes, if you guys didn't like to do that. Short answer, yes. Longer answer, not only did it become recurrent, but the administrative mechanisms in place were inadequate and in some cases outdated. This also allows, I would caution to craft it as allows for the town to recoup the administrative costs and actually couch it more and allows the town to address the administrative costs of administering this without the augmented fines of going through the process of going to court and the time that people spend with that. If you're like, yes, okay, my dog got out, or the motion sensor was on, I didn't mean to, the dog set it off, PD came, here's the $25, I don't need to waste a day going to the court to say that, and I also am not gonna start out at like $110. It adds some practicality to the process, I would say, and pragmatism, which has been a pivot and a focus of this department and this council. So not only is it a recurrent problem, but I would say also the administrative elements of the code were inadequate to sufficiently address the problem in the way it was manifested.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions from council? No? Open it for public comment. Close public comment. Pull the council, please.
Councilmember Noble? Yes. Councilmember Zanaida?
Yes.
Mayor Denver?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Howell?
Yes.
Councilmember Hopps?
Yes.
Next is Resolution 2020-10, providing for the adoption of the Pinellas County Local Mitigation Strategy. Attorney Moore, will you please read it by title only, please?
Happily, Mayor, so just give me a moment to get to the number here.
Thanks, Ted.
Town of Kansas City, resolution number 2020-10, a resolution of the Town of Kansas City, Florida, providing for the adoption of Pinellas County Local Mitigation Strategy and providing for an effective date. This has been a reading of resolution 2020-10 by title only. As noted, I did not say first or second reading. Resolutions only have a single reading, and as distinct from an ordinance. So that this is the reading of this resolution.
Okay, I need a motion to approve Resolution 2020-10.
Motion to approve resolution number 2020-10.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Manager Campbell, anything you would like to add?
Well, just for those that were not here in 2015, I just wanted to bring you up to speed. The local mitigation strategy is an organization that was fostered together in conjunction with the counties, and in effect joins all the county municipalities together as one voice in regards to hazard mitigation in relation to passing storms, hurricanes, etc., or any other natural disaster that would in effect affect all of our municipalities or a significant number of them. Originally, the town adopted its first resolution supporting the county-led local mitigation strategy in 2015. This is an actual update to that. In essence, in a nutshell, the town, along with all the other municipalities, needs to participate in the local mitigation strategy as a combined effort in order to get or qualify for state and federal funds post-disaster. So, in a nutshell, that's what this local mitigation strategy enables us to do. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from council? I just would like to, on page 2, it's just, and I guess in memory of Joanne, it says, City of Kansas City, and everything else in the document says Town of Kansas City. Those of you understand what I mean by that. Okay. I will open it for public comment. Okay, close public comment. Pull the council, please.
Councilmember Noble? Yes. Councilmember Delaney?
Yes.
Mayor Dudley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Howell?
Yes.
Councilmember Hopps?
Yes.
Next is Resolution 2020-11, calling for a March 9th, 2021 election for the purpose of establishing a qualifying period and electing 2 council members and 1 mayor. Attorney Moore, please.
Properly, Madam Mayor, Town of Kansas City, resolution number 2020-11. A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Kansas City, Florida, calling for a municipal general election for the purpose of electing at large qualified candidates to fill the vacancies of 2 council member seats for 2-year terms and 1 mayor seat for a 3-year term. Authorizing the Pinellas County Supervisor to serve elections to appoint poll workers. Authorizing the assignment of polling place, establishing a candidate qualifying period. Restating the codified process in the event of a tie or unopposed vacancy. Authorizing the town manager to enter into a contract with Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections. And providing for an effective date. This has been the sole reading of resolution number 2020-11 by title only, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve Resolution 2020-11.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Is there any comments or questions from council?
No.
No? Anything? Nope. Open it for public comment. Paul?
Paul Ashley, 641244. Can we get the dates of when packets can be picked up, when they're due back, and can a neighbor pick up a pack for someone who might be out of town? Thank you.
Okay.
The answer is, December 11th at 8 a.m. through December 18th at noon is qualifying period, and yes, someone can pick it.
Thanks, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Cindy, the button you hit, the clock's still going.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay. I'll make it go ding.
I will try on
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. Anyone else for public comment? I will close public comment. Pull the council, please.
Councilmember Noble? Yes. Councilmember Delaney?
Yes.
Mayor Dudley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Howell?
Yes.
Councilmember Hopps?
Yes.
Next is authorization for the town manager to enter into a maintenance agreement with Pinellas County for the future 46th Avenue JPA improvements. I need a motion to authorize.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay, open for discussion to council, or would you like to
Well,
add?
staff's available for questions, but this is just a maintenance agreement. Since Pinellas County owns this right of way, they need to in effect authorize us to conduct these improvements within the right of way. So this is for the roadway resurfacing of 46th Avenue from the 55th Street ditch on the east all the way to 62nd Street on the west. There'll be milling and resurfacing of this roadway, and forgive me for talking to the community. I know a number of the council are familiar with this project. They'll mill about 3 to 4 inches of the existing asphalt with the big machines, the grinding machines come back. They'll also replace curb and gutter within that area where needed, put in ADA improvements where needed, and it's also part of the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that the town received for the 46th Avenue Trail, which basically widens the existing sidewalk from 4 feet to 10 feet in places, and it will go basically within the median area of 46th Avenue. This project is currently under bid. We actually have a pre-bid meeting with contractors tomorrow. The overall goal is to complete these improvements by the end of
questions, comments from council? No? I'll open it for public comment. Close public comment. Call the council, please.
Councilmember Noble?
Yes.
Councilmember Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Dennis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor House?
Yes.
Councilmember Hopps?
Yes.
Next is the agreement renewal with Trust Signal LLP for town attorney services. Manager Gamble? Go ahead.
Actually, at this point, this is pretty straightforward. This is something we undertake every year. In this case, we have 2 years. We've done this for the last several years. And it's an agreement between the town and its town attorney. And we've properly budgeted for these expenses within the overall
In the
agreement.
budget.
But by all means, we're available for any questions as deemed necessary by Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the agreement renewal?
Motion.
Need a second? Any questions or comments from council? I'll open it for public comment. Close public comment. Call the council, please.
Councilmember Noble?
Yes.
Councilmember Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Dennis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor House?
Yes.
Councilmember Hopps?
Yes.
Okay, next is to the comment section. I'll start with Councilmember Noble.
Thank you. So last time, when we were here, I was bringing up, that I'm concerned about our budget, and, you know, we had to raise taxes this past year because of the, we just acted from the budget. And so, and it was noted in the notes, but again, we sit here and we're not talking about it or anything. Is anybody up here concerned about it besides me?
I guess that means just during budget season is when you would talk about those things.
Well,
As-
no, there's preparation,
I don't.
it's ongoing cost that is my concern. For instance, who's our town engineer?
Justin?
Okay, so we seriously pay the third-party vendor money to go out and do a triangular view around bushes that need to be cut so you can see and you don't have an accident? Are you really telling me that?
Yeah.
Alrighty then, this is my concern.
Well, we keep ourselves professional here. We got to make sure that we are doing things in the proper way. I mean, this is typical how you run a town in a city.
Steps we have to
I
follow.
know.
Okay, so I can go to town hall and get that protocol then, for when streets have obstructions? And I can look at the protocol and it will be laid out?
I don't know. That's-
Well, no, you just
Those
told me
are
that
governed
that's.
by, just inasmuch as they're talking about compliance with regulations, site triangles, depending on the road at issue, are governed, typically by FDOT guidelines. And so you're looking at FDOT or, FL, DH, SMB guidelines that are at issue, which are, publicly available. I can speak to saying that I know those exist only because I had to litigate them. So I would, to that point, I would also add it is most helpful to ensure a professional, who's familiar with those guidelines is involved, in as much as that mitigates exposure to liability, were those matters to be at issue in some litigation down the road. And that's the added context I would provide, back up.
Thank you, that's very understandable. So in essence, though, we should have a protocol that says, according to legislation or, you know, FDOT regulation or something, you do the following when you have a complaint that comes into town hall.
I understand your concerns. We dealt with this in this particular manner because 66th Street is a state roadway.
It does, okay, so say it was, one of our local streets, is there no protocol, that's all I'm, simple answer, yes or no? Do we have a protocol in our town to deal with this?
For triangle of visibility on local streets,
No, if somebody calls the town hall, let's move on, the answer is no, because you're just gonna give me a convoluted answer once again.
well, no, can you clarify your question? Because
Yes, do we have a protocol if somebody calls the town hall and says, I have a visibility problem on one of our streets, what do you do?
Yes, we do. There's just so many different kinds of streets within the town. There's local roads, there's a separate
I'm just
protocol.
asking if you have a protocol.
We have a protocol for local roads,
So I can come up tomorrow and see that.
for collector roadways, and it's in several different manuals. Yes, we can dig it up, but what I'll need you to do is to give us the specific streets of where you're talking about, because not all roads are treated the same.
Well, so what's our town clerk to do if somebody calls her and asks her? Is she supposed to know, well, what kind of street is that?
She actually punts to the experts in the field, whether it's our building department or punts to me. We look in our codes, we look it up. That's where you rely on a professional manager to look these things up within our books and communicate those to the public. We actually work with the town engineer on 43rd and 66th Street because there's an established standard, but it's because of the location, it requires it to be physically drawn on a map. Because that one's difficult, because I understand where the residents are coming from. I know, I've driven that. I would like for both of those corners to be trimmed too. But the triangle across visibility, that's where the engineer came in, because if this were to go to court, and I'm not a legal representative, they're going to rely on the PE or the transportation engineer and that triangle across visibility on what property owners are required to maintain at that particular intersection versus what we want them to maintain.
I need to stop here a moment because I think I need some clarification and maybe some legal, I don't know. I was the understanding that the comment section was where we're just sharing our thoughts or, I don't know, some event that's in the town or we want to say, you know, great job when we had the fall festival and we would give feedback. And I feel like this comment section is turning into these little mini workshops. And I didn't think that was the purpose of them. To me, your question, and I think it's very legitimate what you're asking, Councilmember Noble, but to me, that would be make a phone call with the town manager, send an email, I need to meet with you, I have a question. And that would be between you and him.
Well, no,
I'm confused why we're all sitting up here and listening to this.
because the only time we can discuss things because of the sunshine law is in an open forum.
Not with him.
No, well, no, I don't, first of all, anybody that can take a paragraph, a whole paragraph and say it was a typo, I'm losing a lot of trust for. I have gone up and talked to him. I just got my information this afternoon from, right before the meeting, from several weeks ago. Oh, I forgot. You know, I don't get information from him, and when we do get information, there's a trust thing for one. I don't trust him, he lies. You know, and he called me a liar.
We need to stop this discussion right now. We need to stop this discussion right now.
Then you need to go and say you want it on an agenda. This is not an agenda.
I went the first time we had a meeting, and I said, I would like to put some stuff on the agenda, and I was told no.
We did. Last month, we put on the agenda, you wanted to talk about all the capital improvements, and we sat and went through.
No,
we
what
sat
I
and
wanted
listened.
to talk about, on a workshop, was and it was said, I said, we need to discuss and find out what the people want want us to do. What is the community as a whole? What are the priorities for the community? Not just go over what somebody else has previously decided what to put on capital improvement.
Well, you could have spoken up last meeting and said that you disagreed with what was on the list.
Well, it's not that I disagree, that's stuff that's going on. And I did find out a great deal about that, because now I know, every time.
In an effort to ground this in the procedural element, and my apologies for speaking over you, Madam Councilmember, a few things. Ordinarily, comments traditionally have been, this is, hey, I'm going to be speaking at the Boy Scouts Association, I'd love for people to come through, or at the town garage sale. That is one use of the comment section. The comment section can be used as an opportunity, given the limits of the Sunshine Law, to say, is there an interest in discussing this issue, without necessarily getting into the merits of the issue itself, to saying, hey, for example, hey guys, I've noticed we have a litter issue, I'd really like to revisit littering and what our regulations are and what we can do. Would anybody be open to having a workshop or a discussion item on that at the next meeting? Consensus, yes, then we move on. As it relates to the preparation of the agenda, I want to remind you, and for our newer members, and I believe I don't believe I actually had the opportunity to circulate it, though I know I've referenced it. Every council has its own rules of procedure, in addition to state statute and otherwise. In 2018, I believe it was in June, this council adopted resolution 2018-08, setting forth the rules of the procedure for council meetings. As it relates to preparation of the agenda, it specifically states as follows for town council members. Any town council member may ask the town clerk to place an item on an agenda at any time prior to the finalization of the agenda, so long as all applicable notice requirements would be satisfied. Council member requests for supplemental agenda items may be granted by the town council, but are discouraged, and that's what it states. And then items not on the agenda. Matters that do not require separate public notice may, with the consent of the majority of the council members present, be considered and acted upon at any regular or special town council meeting. If that feels to you like it is an exception that swallows the rule, in some ways it can be. That is done in part because you also are a body that supervises. One of the things that typically comes up as a matter of controversy is when is the appropriate time. Let's say tonight my contract wasn't up, and there was some sentiment that I should not serve in this capacity anymore. You can't coordinate outside the meeting. You can't get it put on the agenda because you don't want me to know before I show up, perhaps, for purposes of whatever, if there's something nefarious or whatever the concern may be. And so there's usually something in rules of procedure that just kind of leaves open like, I have something I'd like to discuss tonight, that is of the moment and needs addressing now. And if there's consensus, then it gets handled. So that's why that kind of language, that's an example, the most striking you'll see. And if you've looked into some of your neighboring communities on the occasion where that discussion has come up, for a city attorney or otherwise, it's usually scandalous because somebody says, oh, they didn't follow the procedure, it happened in comments, but there's not really a great time to do those sorts of things anyways. That said, that's what your rules of procedure say. I am happy to circulate the rules of procedure following this meeting, and if any of you in reviewing them have questions about the flow of your meetings, what your rules of procedure say, whether if you'd like to change them at all, of course these were done by resolution. Resolutions take one reading. If the will of this body is to modify these, that's why you do things like this and find schedules in a way that's a little more flexible, because it just governs your business. It need not be codified in your ordinances. So that is the answer to the question of how we handle these things procedurally, what the rules of procedure voted on by the council in June 2018 specifically state, and I think that sufficiently addresses it. Again, I continue to remind all council members that I am always available to you if you have questions about the process, the requirements, anything that binds this council or this town, whether in a meeting or otherwise. I can speak with any of you individually, and on some occasions have. The same is true of your town manager, your town clerk, or otherwise. What you're barred from doing is speaking with each other on any issue that may or does come before this body, or using us as a proxy. The mayor can't tell me, you go tell Megan I said this, or you go tell Wanda. You can't do that. But beyond that, that's really the strictures. And so, as with all things, this is everybody's a little bit right situation. And I would advise you that if there are niche issues that are a function of getting information and there's a sentiment of a lack of credibility, I don't know whether that question is answered in public or in private is going to satisfy that particular concern. But that said, I think I've addressed all the issues that were raised in as much as I could do them all, and you had the floor, Madam Councilman.
So I just got one more thing then. So I did a documents request to get this information back in 2019. it was brought up that our, police department, the W-2 forms were incorrect. I brought this up last time, where we have people that I have question about if they're qualified to do their jobs. And this is still an ongoing matter. This has not been resolved. We're paying $10,000 to have an auditor come in. This is my concern about the budget. That wasn't budgeted for. You know, and this is costing us money. If you hire people that are qualified to do their jobs, then it costs us money. It costs the town undue money, and that's a lot of money. We have to pay additional attorney fees. We have to pay to have things audited. This problem is still not resolved. You know, so there's a lot of things that are going on, and there's a lack of communication, and nobody wants to talk. Everyone just sits.
So what do you want to do? What's your next
I got
move?
a question. I have a question. It seems like, you know, you're new to this council, but to me, sitting here and listening to you, it sounds like you want us to fire her, and it sounds like you want us to fire him. Is that your agenda? Is that what you're working up to do for us to vote to fire these people and get rid of them?
I want the town to be able to have protocols, follow the protocols, and have discussions. For instance, why don't we communicate with the police department? Why isn't everybody involved? Why don't we communicate with the DPW? Why isn't everybody involved? For instance, why is there not things that go out to say, hey, can something be done better? Is there one single network, so if I want to go and look at the protocols, that I can just pull them up? They should be right there, you know? And
I
we have
understand
not
what
done
you're saying,
this.
but you're not answering my question. My question to you is, are you trying to give all this stuff enough credibility that we have enough stuff that we're gonna fire her and fire him? Is that what you're trying
I
to
want
do?
the job done properly. There's
I mean,
the bottom
you
line.
publicly called this man a liar in a public meeting. That is just unbelievable.
It's unprofessional.
Unbelievable.
Folks, if we could leave it for the council to discuss, please.
And my question is, what is your next step? What is it? I don't know what you want us to do.
I don't know, how are we covering for these costs that are incurring because we don't have
What
qualified
costs
people?
are occurring that you don't like? What do you think is wasting
Well, so
money?
what's egregious is somebody can get notified that, hey, my pay stub is wrong, okay? Back in October of 2019, what is the date today? It's still not resolved. That's egregious. How long would you work if your pay was screwed up?
Isn't that the attorney's job to be battling this
No,
back and forth
that's
to figure out
okay.
what it is?
No, that is our job as the clerk, the clerk's job to do the payroll, I believe.
I can't legally represent this council. I don't know how you could ask us that question, as you just said, we should be taking care of. It's not our job, that's why we hired this man as our attorney.
What do you mean
Are
it's
you,
not our job to
sir,
pay
are-
people correctly?
Are you working on this payroll problem that we've developed?
I am, the payroll issue identified is being resolved through dispute resolution between the EDA's representatives and the town representatives. I am facilitating that dialogue. I do not handle payroll, I do not do the calculations, but yes, I am one of the persons involved in facilitating a solution. My job is to limit your exposure to liability, and when liability claims or challenges arise, to help you find solutions, and I am fulfilling my duties in that regard.
Is there anybody up here have the authority to help you in your job?
In as much as all of you are my supervisors, yes, but
Legally.
in terms of legal advice, I would not ask, I don't seek it at this time. There may be times I seek guidance, this is not one of them.
So Vice Mayor, my question is, why did it take over a year and a letter from a different attorney to get action out of our town? That's my question.
this has been going on a while. It's not just something that can just be taken care of overnight.
No, I have
There's a
the, I
lot of-
have the
there's a
documents
lot
in
of-
my face, right in front of me, you know, so.
Do you have the answer for it?
I have the inquiries about why is this not being addressed.
Yeah, I know, but do you have the answer for it?
That is my question, why did it take so long? It's egregious that it had to take a letter from an attorney to get something done by our town. That's my point.
And who are you blaming that for? Who's
I
fault
think
is
that
it?
we hired a town manager to do that. Isn't that his job? He's
So-
always telling us.
So we're getting right back to my original question. Is it on your agenda that we were trying to gather enough information to fire these people?
It is on my agenda to get the information and to stop leaking money, thousands of dollars from our taxpayers so we don't have to raise their taxes again. That's my point.
So you feel that the job wasn't done properly?
I have read the documentation and it took months before it was even addressed by the town. It took letters from the attorneys before it was even addressed by the town. That's a problem in my eyes. And now, because of all of this, we have an audit going on that's costing the town $10,000. In addition to whatever else comes out of that. Because it was not done correctly. I mean, and mistakes are made, I understand that. The egregious part is it went months and a letter from the attorneys to even get it looked at, to correct it.
Isn't that procedure?
This is a convoluted issue where, as a whole, I can't go back and look at what we did wrong, but we do realize that administratively, we made a mistake in the old transition from going from one payroll system to another. But the point of it being egregious is, in this particular case, I feel it's a matter of opinion because none of this was malicious. In this particular case, transitioning from one payroll vendor to another, a mistake was made. So rather than point the finger at one particular person, yes, I oversee, the administrative duties in the office of the clerk, but theoretically, she reports to the council as the charter official too. But the bottom line is, we're grateful that it was discovered, and the benefit is we are working to correct it. We have an established protocol in place. What I can tell you is, when it comes to code enforcement matters, very often people will say, well, what about my neighbor who has this boat? Or what about my neighbor down the street who has this? I'm not going to point the finger. Yes, we made a mistake and we are working through it to the best way that we know how to move forward and to make it right for all the police officers and the regular employees.
If it comes out that we owe the police officers money because of this mistake, we're going to pay them that money instantly, correct?
Yes, we are. The flip side of it is,
If they owe less money.
If they owe us money, I don't, I'll probably bring it to council, but I don't think we're going to collect that from them based upon the data that we've discovered thus far. We're not talking about, I can't speak for the forensic accountant, but I don't think we would collect that from the officers. I think that's just a general respect.
I just need some clarification. So I understand that we're in legal negotiations to resolve what happened in the past. I understand that. Have the issues that caused the payroll discrepancies, have those been resolved? So moving forward, we're no longer having payroll issues, correct?
Part of the negotiation process. When you talk about we're in legal negotiations, we're not actively in legal negotiations. The parties have found a resolution, we're moving forward, and pending the findings of that process, there may be additional discussions, but everybody's moving in lockstep.
Okay.
What's ongoing is the auditing process and the financial review. That's where that stands. Inasmuch as how do we make sure that whatever we're hearing is not persisting, in collaboration with the police department, one of the solutions was for the town to transition its payroll system for the police department from one vendor to another that the police department had more confidence in and familiarity with based on other departments. That has been implemented. It was implemented with members of the PD, most specifically the chief, at the table as shareholders to facilitate that dialogue, the review, and the data inputs, because a system is only as good as the data that goes into it.
Sure.
And so that was done. The other element that was done, so these solutions included the ongoing audit, the change of the payroll system,
Right.
and I think the third issue is actually not related, that I'm thinking of is not related to those two. So those were the core concerns, and part of the audit process is to get are there identifiable issues that in review we've learned amount to more than data entry. You know, if somebody interpolates a number, that's human error, and that's something else. But if there's a systemic issue, identifying them as part of that audit process, both on an individual officer level and on a systemic level.
Sure.
That review is ongoing.
Okay.
So I cannot say that they unequivocally, every problem has been resolved,
Okay.
but all parties are moving towards continued solutions.
Because with my many years of payroll experience, as a manager, payroll is the one thing I've done. I've verified payroll for over 100 employees at a time. So I guess my question is, with this new payroll system that the police department is switching to, will the officers and the staff have the capability to verify their time card on their end before it ever reaches the supervisor, whether that be Matt or Cindy, you know, the person who finalizes the payroll?
To answer your question, not switching, have switched.
Yep.
The system already went live.
Okay.
And part of that system involves the officers being able to manually enter their time, manually enter, observe, and in real time see vacation accrual. One of the concerns in the last system was that was the third solution, thank you. Was the inconsistency of the reporting elements.
Correct.
Maybe you get on one payroll it gives you the value of lead time, just random example. And then on the next one, it's not consistent or not there. Making sure those fields were consistent and understood, so that you can in real time see, and in fact providing additional transparency elements that were not reported before, so that an officer can see what is my compensation now relative to this time last year, you know, percent over last year, those sorts of things. So short answer again, yes, but that is because it is new. As with rollout of any new software interface, people are continuing to learn the utility of it. It's my understanding, again, I don't deal in the system, I am not your accountant, I am not your payroll, I am not your HR department, but in terms of the solution-oriented approach, it is my understanding that this has much more transparency, consistency, and there's general satisfaction. Of course, the continuing concern being, let's make sure the data going in is correct.
Okay. Because in my experience, that's just as important, you know, the employee side as just as much as the verification management side. So you can solve a lot of issues beforehand if the employees can catch it, so I'm happy they have that ability now.
The consistent theme, at least certainly between the attorneys speaking, has been building trust between the respective parties. Of course, when you have any kind of discrepancy like that, it can foster that mistrust in that regard. And that is why this solution is oriented towards both shareholders. It is not the town unilaterally dictating this is what is going to happen, we're moving forward. So making sure there's buy-in on both sides, and that both sides' needs are adequately met within compromise.
Sure. Anything else?
Oh, go ahead.
No?
I do have something, but I promise it will be really quick and simple and funny.
Friendly. I'll take the friendly.
Okay, just a reminder to all of our residents that our annual townwide garage sale is December 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it is free to our residents. So you can find the information on our town website, or if you follow my council Facebook page, I have the link directly on there. It'll bring you straight there. It takes less than a minute to register, and then you have your free permit for your garage sale coming up next month. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then I see in your memorandum, Matt, I just had comments, like I said, one question. So about the Christmas lighting that we're gonna do, that's awesome that we're gonna film it. I'm sure we're gonna put it on the website and social media. I just wanted to have a comment saying I think we're missing an opportunity to go live for that event on our social media, because I see at the bottom, last statement, the event will not be promoted to the public. I understand we don't want residents showing up to the tree lighting ceremony, like I get that aspect. I just think we should promote it like, hey, feature in on December 10th to watch our virtual tree lighting. And then we can actually have more interaction within our residents, they can join in, you know, they can comment, talk to each other, and then afterwards, we can post the recorded version. I just wanted to say, I think we're missing an opportunity. I recommend that we go live. And then second question, again, in my many years of management experience and hiring, I see that for the chief of police position, only 18 applicants applied. This is more of a question / comment. In my field of retail or hospitality or management, 18 applicants, normally we would reopen that pool immediately. 18 applicants normally would not qualify enough for like a good applicant pool for us. I see here your next step is to just narrow it down to approximately 4 or 5 quality applicants from that 18. Part A of the question. Do you truly feel confident that you found 4 to 5, like, you know, rock stars in that 18? Or do you think it would be a good idea to open up the application period again? Because I see you advertise with great organizations, numerous things, that's great. It's like I said, part question, part concern. In my field, they would say this is not enough applicants. And is this a lot for a police chief, or normally in the past, you know, before Chief Riley joined, how many applicants, you know, then? To me, it's just, I just don't know, it doesn't seem like a lot.
Two responses. You're live for the event. We do plan on doing a Facebook Live event.
Oh, cool.
In fact, our resident millennials on staff are gonna talk me through that, so we're really excited.
It just didn't say it, so it was
In that team effort. But no, I'm sorry, that's a Freudian slip on the word choice.
Alright.
As far as the applicants go, Chief and I met earlier this week. We ended up having 22 total applicants, so just a little more than the 18.
Right.
For our 3-week soak period, the initial 3-week soak period. And we did that early, so that just in case we didn't get who we were looking for, or if we got someone that we were looking for and then they had taken a position elsewhere, we had plenty of time to go back to the drawing board.
Okay.
But Chief and I we met for a couple hours. We boiled it down to 8 that we definitely want to commence conversations with for clarification of some of the items on their CV history.
Sure.
But we, you know, Chief and I have had a conversation. We feel as though that, you know, we do have some good, sound candidates. And I think all of them that we have boiled down in our first list, they can probably do the job as far as their experience goes. Now what we're looking at is fit. We're looking at personality. We're looking at how they interview, how they present, so on and so forth. Because in my profession, what I've found is it takes skills to do something, but then also they need to be a good fit.
Sure. Personality has to work as well.
Yeah, so right now, we feel confident of what we have moving forward, but just keep in mind that from now until we start scheduling these interviews, it could be that we lose some of our top candidates just because maybe they've moved on or maybe they've made applications with other places too.
But do you think at that point you would settle, or at that point would you then reopen the pool?
No, I'll converse with Chief as well on this, and we'll take a look at who we have. But I think for the most part, we've got some pretty solid candidates. And it's a diverse pool of candidates at this point.
And you said you'll bring those final few to the council, correct?
What we would like to do is once we conduct our initial round of interviews and consultations, we'll do virtual interviews, et cetera. We're probably gonna weed those out and get down to 4 or 5. Then our overall goal is to bring roughly 4 or 5 to an informal session with council, kind of something like a breezy meet and greet, so to speak, so you'll have an opportunity to talk with all of them. And then, you know, we'll approach each and every one of you for your comments.
Perfect. Again, it's much appreciated to be in the process.
Certainly.
That's it for me.
I would just like to make a comment. not meant to have a big discussion, since we've made it clear that this is no sunshine and this is not time for us to talk. I hear some of the dissatisfaction that you feel for how the town is run. And I just want to say that I'd like you to look at the glass as being half full and not as half empty. Nobody is perfect. Yes, people have their faults, and I don't mean to point a finger, but yes, Manager Campbell, there are some things that maybe are not his strengths. But I don't think there's any one of us up here who can say that we have all strengths and no weaknesses, okay? Over my career of teaching, I had several principals. Be careful what you wish for. Had some that, you're frustrated with some of the way they lead, and then they're gone, and somebody else comes, and then you're like, oh, I guess that really wasn't that bad. So I guess it's more try to think more positive. His leadership style is not like mine. I've told him that. He knows that. I had to learn to work with him and find the positive things that he had to offer the town. And many times I do say to myself, look at how far we have come with him here. And I'm not gonna, I don't wanna really pinpoint anybody, but it's anyone who's in a position in this town, none of us are perfect. And I do hope that you can go to him and have dialogue and try to look at the positive things he has to offer. And then talk to him about the things that are the weaknesses. Because and he'll tell you, trust me, him and I have had those conversations. I have no problem sitting down and doing an evaluation and saying, okay, this is what I think you need to work on, and do it in a professional way.
I have a quick thing to say. None of us up here, I don't believe, are here for the enormous fee of $300 a month, okay? That's what we make here doing this job. I mean, come on. The reason I am here is to help the town of Kansas City, to get things going, to get things rolling along. United we stand, divided we fall. And if we can't get together as a group and figure out which way we need to go without all these animosities, we're going to fall, just like the Roman Empire. We have brought this place up for my first term and the second term, with Barbara back there on the step. We didn't agree to everything. We sat right next to one another. We disagreed. But when it came time to vote or to be united, we did. That's exactly what we did. We didn't, if he said no, she said no, she said no, and you said no, I wouldn't say yes. I would say no, because I'm a team player. And that's what we need to be up here, is a team. And look for the good in everybody instead of trying to, just calling him a lot. That ain't going to work. That's, in this realm, that is just not going to work. I don't care if he is a liar. Don't call him that in public. Go to his face and say, hey, you're a liar. Just between you and him, not between all of us. Why would you damage that man's reputation? That's just terrible. Just absolutely terrible to do that. That's just about what I got to say. Let's play nice together, okay?
Be kind.
Yes, be kind. We're here for the same thing. Amen.
Amen.
I'd just like to say that I've lived in this town my entire life. And I've seen the ups and downs in this town as far as the overall appearance, the way people took care of their houses and so forth. The last 7, 8 years, I have seen more improvement, more changes than my entire 63 years in this town. I have seen the changes the improvements in every aspect. Police department, things that are being done in this town, park, buildings, things are being accomplished. Drainage, things that weren't being done, that didn't, I'm used to drainage ditch that was into Joe's Creek. That was a massive job, and everybody that lived on it had been complaining for 20 freaking years. This guy comes in and gets it done in less than 2 years.
Yes.
Massive project. But those are the things that aren't very exciting or sexy or anything. People don't even notice that. Most of you probably don't know that. But things have been getting done, and done reasonably well. Nothing's perfect. Never is. That's life. Get over it. But the town's getting better. And if we all work together, we can make it even better down the road. But everything takes time, and you have to focus on the big picture and not nitsy on those little tiny things that don't make the biggest difference. Work on them, but they're not the big picture. Love the town, love the residents. So that's all I have to say.
Attorney Moore?
Thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve this community. It's been a pleasure to be your city attorney, your town attorney for the last little more than 6 years now, and I welcome the next few years and looking forward to working with each of you. And as I stated before, whether now or later, I am available for any questions, comments, legal needs you have as you try to navigate your role as elected officials. Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve.
Senator Campbell?
Just briefly, there is a community education brochure that's being circulated. I can tell you that in regards to the changes that the council adopted in regards to Chapter 54, both prior council and the current council, I think the partnership between code enforcement, the police department, public works, and my administrative staff at town hall, this brochure is very effective, and we're using it to communicate as the council had wished. The recent changes to Chapter 54 with parking, and we've been keeping track of those particular properties that may not be as readily compliant as others, but we're doing our best to canvass the community on a regular basis, and we're not issuing any citations right now. We're actually talking to residents, explaining, hey, what their options are moving forward, and for the most part, a lot of the residents are complying. We're also indicating that there is that need to update Chapter 66, which deals with the overall expansion of driveway widths to allow people that flexibility to provide for some additional parking options within their property above and beyond what the current code allows. So we're teeing that actual up for presentation to the Planning and Zoning Board, because that actually occurs within a zoning code, the land development code portion of the town's code of ordinances. So that theoretically has to go in front of the Planning and Zoning Board first, which serves as an advisory board to the town council. And then it will come back in an ordinance for a first and second reading in front of council. And that establishes some additional flexibility for expanding your parking on your property beyond what's currently allowed by code. So we are working on that, but we appreciate what Officer Beltran is doing and the other officers to use this brochure. I provided a copy of it in your backup. So we're available for any further questions, but we do plan on after the first of the year, at that time, in the event that people are still not compliant, proceeding forward with some more intense enforcement measures. And once again, I've indicated this in the past, we're not going to agree on everything that comes across at a council meeting. I do want to meet with you individually. Obviously, I don't like the blow-ups that occur at council meetings, but it's unavoidable, and I get that. But I really would like to meet with you one-on-one. But please know, we're not going to agree on everything, but I'd like to try to strike a healthy balance between what it is that you're bringing forward and what I'm trying to bring forward. Your management style may not mesh with mine. I don't expect you to change your management style. I'm going to respect you where you are. And all I ask is that you just play fair with me and respect me where I am too. I mean, we're all adults here, and we've had a good working relationship throughout this process. I can't avoid what's going on the council. If you won't physically come talk to me, or if you've got a bone to pick with me, just come talk to me, you know, or, hey, if I'm not meeting up your expectations, I'll do what I can to get you something. But I'm not gonna single out anybody on council because, yes, I report to each and every one of you, and I respect each and every one of you for the position that you do within this town. Town has grown by leaps and bounds, but I agree, there's certain people that aren't gonna like change, and I get that. I'm trying to be respectful of that with the things that we bring forward, but we're still not gonna please everyone with what it is that we do. What I try to do is establish a healthy balance. And a lot of what I do, I look at the forest for the trees, I look at for what is good for the betterment of the town and its people versus, you know, the individual blades of grass. But sometimes I have to get down in that grass and work with people, and I do from time to time. And our staff strives in doing that too, so I'm greatly appreciative, and our town attorney as well. But I think for the most part, we have, you know, a great thing that we're working towards, and I'm just, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity that you've provided me to be your town manager. We've come a long way. But, you know, if there comes a time that you just feel that, you know, I'm not for you, then so be it. We'll work through it. But I just appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to, yeah, I just saw there was a check mark by name, clerk.
I just wanted to remind everyone, if you haven't taken the ethics training, that there is another one through Florida League of Cities on December 16th, and I sent them out to your email. It's the same 10 to 12, and then a break in 1:30 to 3:30. So if you haven't taken it, you can please do so. Or if you've taken it, I know Mayor Dudley and Councilman Zamatis have sent me their notifications that they did. If you haven't, you know, please take it. If you have, let me know. And also, the Mayor's Council of Dallas County, there is a holiday luncheon on December 4th, which is a Friday. Everyone is invited. It's, your cost is covered. If you want to bring your spouse, it's $25. I also sent that to you too, but if you need another copy, I'd like to know by Friday. And we can make reservations and you can pick your meal.
Did you get mine in your door?
No.
I put mine in your door.
Okay. And then our next meeting will be December 9th. And like I said, the qualifying period is the 11th through the 18th, starting at 8 a.m. on the 11th through December 18th at noon.
Okay, thank you. Now I need a motion to adjourn. Okay, second, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.